USPS made my package disappear, so I made them deliver it to hell. I never thought I'd become obsessed with the United States Postal Service. But life has a way of dragging you into battles you never asked for, with enemies you never knew you had. It started with a simple package. My grandmother's antique pocket watch, the only thing I had left of her after she passed last winter. I'd sent it to be restored by a specialist in Boston, a master craftsman who still knew how to work with the delicate mechanisms inside these century-old timepieces. 3 months of meticulous restoration, and it was finally heading back to me in Portland. The tracking number showed it had reached my local distribution center on a Tuesday. Wednesday came and went. Thursday, Friday. The status never changed. "It's in the system," the postal worker assured me when I called. Her voice had that practiced patience of someone who deals with frustrated customers all day. "Sometimes there are delays. Give it another day or two." But another day turned into a week. The tracking still showed the same status. Arrived at USPS Regional Facility, Portland, Oregon. Nothing more. I visited my local post office, where I was greeted by Marcus, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a name tag that had seen better days. "I don't see anything unusual here," he said, peering at his monitor after I'd explained my situation. "Packages sometimes get delayed in processing. It happens. This isn't just any package," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's my grandmother's watch. It's irreplaceable." Marcus sighed, and I could tell he'd heard similar stories 1,000 times before. "Fill out this form," he said, sliding a piece of paper across the counter. "We'll initiate a search." I filled out the form, feeling a strange mix of hope and dread. As I walked out of the post office, I glanced back to see Marcus already dealing with the next person in line. My form tossed casually into a tray with dozens of others. 2 more weeks passed. No updates, no calls, nothing. I returned to the post office 6 times. Each visit, I was met with a different face, a different excuse, and the same result. Nothing. My package, my grandmother's watch, had entered the postal service system and simply vanished. "Sometimes packages just disappear," said a supervisor named Diane on my 7th visit. She didn't even look up from her computer as she said it, as if lost family heirlooms were as common as misplaced pens. "You should file an insurance claim." "I don't want an insurance claim," I said, my frustration finally boiling over. "I want my grandmother's watch." Diane finally looked up, her expression a mix of boredom and mild annoyance. "Sir, we process thousands of packages every day. We can't track down every single one that gets delayed." That's when something inside me changed. I realized the system wasn't just inefficient or bureaucratic. It was indifferent. My grandmother's watch wasn't important to them. It was just another tracking number in an endless sea of parcels. As I walked out of the post office that day, I made a decision. If they wouldn't help me navigate their system, I would learn to navigate it myself. If they wouldn't find my package, I would. And if they thought they could simply dismiss me, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I had no idea then how far this would go, or how an ordinary missing package would lead me down a rabbit hole of postal regulations, bureaucratic loopholes, and eventually, a plan that would make the Portland USPS remember me for years to come. My kitchen table disappeared under stacks of printouts. USPS regulations, employee manuals leaked online, postal inspection service guidelines, and forum posts from others who had fought similar battles and won. I took a week off work, telling my boss I needed personal time. In reality, I was building a case. I learned that the USPS has an internal tracking system far more detailed than what customers see online. Every package gets scanned multiple times, creating a digital footprint as it moves through the system. Those scans are logged, and with the right pressure applied to the right person, those logs can be accessed. I also discovered something called the Consumer Affairs Department, a level above the local post office, designed specifically to handle escalated complaints. And above them, the Office of the Inspector General, which investigates losses within the postal system. But before escalating that far, I tried one more approach at the local level. Through my research, I'd learned that most processing facilities run 3 shifts. The night shift, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., typically had fewer managers and more seasoned workers who knew the system inside and out. So on a Tuesday night, I arrived at the regional distribution center at 11:30 p.m. The massive warehouse-like building hummed with activity even at this hour, with semi-trucks coming and going from the loading docks. The front desk was staffed by a single security guard, an older man named Frank according to his badge. Unlike the daytime staff I'd encountered, Frank wasn't immediately dismissive. When I explained my situation, he nodded thoughtfully. "You want to talk to Gloria," he said. "She's been running the sorting floor for 20 years. If anyone can help you, it's her." 30 minutes later, I was sitting in a small break room with Gloria, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She reviewed the paperwork I'd brought, the tracking information, the form I'd filled out, and the notes I'd taken from each unsuccessful visit. "Your package should never have disappeared like this," she said, frowning at the papers. "The system has redundancies specifically to prevent this kind of thing." For the first time in weeks, someone in the Postal Service actually seemed concerned. "Let me show you something," Gloria said, leading me through a door onto the main sorting floor. The space was enormous. Conveyor belts everywhere, machines scanning packages at incredible speeds, workers sorting items into bins. "See that scanner there? Every package gets scanned at least 5 times between arrival and delivery. If your grandmother's watch made it to this facility, there's a record of exactly where it went next." Gloria took me to a computer terminal and entered my tracking number. Unlike the basic information I'd seen online, her screen showed a detailed history, timestamps, employee IDs, and specific sorting stations. "Here's where things get interesting," she said, pointing to the screen. "Your package arrived and was scanned in. Then it was routed to sorting station 12. After that, nothing." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means one of 2 things," Gloria said, her expression grave. "Either the package physically fell off the conveyor somewhere between intake and station 12, or someone took it." I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. The thought had crossed my mind, but hearing it from someone who knew the system made it real. "If it just fell off, it would have been found during floor sweeps," Gloria continued. "We do those 4 times a day." So, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Someone had taken my grandmother's watch, and the USPS had been covering it up with excuses and paperwork. "I can't officially help you beyond this," Gloria said, lowering her voice. "But if I were you, I'd contact the Postal Inspection Service directly. They're the law enforcement arm of the USPS. And I'd mention employee badge number 47291. "Whose number is that?" I asked. "Someone who works at Station 12 and has had similar incidents before," Gloria said carefully. "That's all I can say." As I left the facility that night, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at having my suspicions confirmed, gratitude for Gloria's help, and a new, steely determination. This wasn't just about getting my grandmother's watch back anymore. It was about justice. The Postal Inspection Service took my case more seriously than the local office had, but the process was agonizingly slow. After filing a formal complaint with the badge number Gloria had provided, I was told an investigation would be opened, a process that could take weeks or even months. I didn't have months. Every day that passed made it less likely I'd ever see my grandmother's watch again. So I developed a plan. If I couldn't beat the system through official channels, I'd force their hand through the system itself. The USPS has a little-known Achilles heel. They are legally obligated to attempt delivery of any properly addressed and paid-for mail. This is their core mandate, the foundation of the entire Postal Service. And I was going to exploit it. My research had uncovered something called the Mail Recovery Center in Atlanta, the USPS's official lost and found, where undeliverable packages eventually end up. But before a package makes it there, it goes through an elaborate process of attempted delivery and return. I started by mailing a series of packages to my own address, but with subtle errors that would trigger specific responses in the system. One with a slightly wrong apartment number, another with my name misspelled, each designed to test different parts of the delivery process. I tracked these packages meticulously, noting exactly how they were handled, how long each step took, and which facilities they passed through. I was mapping the system from the inside. Then, I began mailing packages to various USPS administrative offices, regional headquarters, consumer affairs departments, even the Postmaster General's office in Washington. Each package contained a letter explaining my situation and requesting help. Most were ignored, but a few triggered responses that gave me more information about how internal mail was processed. But the real breakthrough came when I discovered USPS Publication 52, the Postal Service's Guide to Hazardous, Restricted, and Perishable Mail. It detailed exactly what could and couldn't be sent, and the special procedures for handling unusual items. That's when the idea hit me. I would create a package so bureaucratically complex, so administratively challenging that it would be impossible to ignore. A package that would force every level of the Postal Service to take notice and become involved. A package that would make my name known throughout the entire Portland regional facility. I started with a completely legal but highly unusual item, a live queen bee. Bee queens can legally be shipped via USPS, but they require special handling, ventilation, and priority processing. The package must be marked, must move through the system quickly, and must be hand-delivered rather than left in a mailbox. I ordered a queen bee from a reputable apiary supply company and prepared the special shipping container as required by regulations. But that was just the beginning. I added elements that would trigger additional protocols. A certified mail endorsement requiring a signature, a return receipt request, special handling service, and registered mail service. Each of these additions created more paperwork, more scans, and more accountability in the system. Then I addressed it to the one person who would create the maximum administrative headache, the very supervisor who had dismissed me weeks earlier. Diane would receive a perfectly legal but administratively nightmarish package that would require multiple special handling procedures, signatures, and documentation. And in the process, every employee at the Portland facility would have to be involved. But I wasn't sending just one package. I prepared 12 identical shipments, each time to arrive on consecutive days. 12 days of administrative hell. As I prepared the final package, I included a simple note. All I wanted was my grandmother's watch back. Perhaps now you understand what it's like when something important to you gets lost in the system. The postal worker who accepted the first package looked at all the special service endorsements with wide eyes. "This is unusual," she said. I smiled. "I just want to make sure it gets delivered properly. After all, that's what the Postal Service is for, right?" My first package hit the Portland facility on a Monday morning. By Wednesday, I received a call from a postal inspector named Ramirez. "Mr. Collins," he said, his voice tense, "I understand you've been sending some interesting packages to our Portland facility." "All perfectly legal," I replied. "I followed every regulation to the letter." "That's not the issue," Ramirez said. "The issue is the pattern and intent. You've created a significant disruption to operations." "Interesting," I said. "I've been trying to get someone to take my missing package seriously for over a month. Now that I've sent a few legally compliant mailings, suddenly I have the Postal Inspection Service's attention." There was a pause on the line. "I've reviewed your case," Ramirez finally said. "The missing package with your grandmother's watch. And I'd like to meet with you. Today, if possible." 3 hours later, I sat across from Inspector Ramirez in a conference room at the main post office. He wasn't alone. Diane was there, looking significantly less dismissive than she had during our previous interactions, along with a man in a suit who introduced himself as the regional director. "Your mailing campaign has been effective," the regional director began. "Perhaps too effective. You've made your point." "Have I?" I asked. "Because all I've wanted from the beginning was for someone to take the disappearance of my package seriously." Inspector Ramirez opened a folder. "Based on the information you provided and our subsequent investigation, we've identified the employee who was working at Station 12 when your package disappeared." My heart skipped a beat. And we've recovered this," Ramirez said, sliding a small box across the table. With shaking hands, I opened it. Inside was my grandmother's pocket watch. its silver case gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The employee in question has been terminated and may face criminal charges, Ramirez continued. This wasn't their first offense, but thanks to your persistence, it will be their last. I held the watch, feeling its familiar weight in my palm. The last tangible connection to my grandmother was back where it belonged. We also owe you an apology, the regional director said, clearing his throat uncomfortably. Your case should have been handled properly from the beginning. The dismissive treatment you received was unacceptable. Diane stared at the table, saying nothing. As for your current shipping activity, Ramirez added, we would appreciate it if you would recall the remaining packages. While technically legal, they're creating substantial disruption. I nodded slowly. I can do that, but I have a request in return. What's that? The regional director asked warily. I want changes made to how missing package claims are handled at this facility. Real changes, not just promises. A dedicated person to follow up on cases like mine, clear communication throughout the process, and accountability when things go wrong. The regional director and Ramirez exchanged glances. That's not unreasonable, the director finally said. We can implement new procedures, and I'd be interested in hearing your specific suggestions, given how thoroughly you've studied our system. We spent the next hour outlining a new approach to handling missing package claims. By the end, we had a plan that would help not just me, but everyone who might find themselves in a similar situation in the future. As I left the post office that day, my grandmother's watch safely in my pocket, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Satisfaction at having finally broken through the bureaucratic wall. Vindication that my suspicions had been correct. Relief at having recovered something irreplaceable. But mostly, I felt a quiet pride. One person against a massive system had seemed like an impossible fight. But with persistence, research, and a willingness to push boundaries, I'd made them deliver my concerns all the way to hell and back. And somewhere, I like to think my grandmother was smiling at my stubbornness, a trait she always said I'd inherited from her. The system had taken something precious from me, but in fighting to get it back, I'd changed that system, hopefully for the better. As for the remaining 11 special packages with their queen bees and multiple service endorsements, I did recall them, but not before Diane had to personally sign for 2 more, each time having to follow every single specialized procedure to the letter. Some lessons, after all, are best learned through experience.